Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Ashok. I'm here to talk about our journey over the last, I would say, about 15 months since we started what is a company called M9. Our product is called Oystor. Started off as a very basic need-based application which says, look, I have a whole lot of trouble organizing my information. I was moving around from country to country, and we just said, look, needs to have a solution where today one's information is in multiple locations, multiple formats, served by different domains and enterprise and entities. So we said your world really needs to be simplified, and yet at the same time it has to be secure. So that was the sort of starting point at which we founded M9. But then I'll give you a little bit more flavor of what we do as the product evolved, and how the journey has been for us. So we're obviously a cloud-based software and services provider. It's while we're in the process of simplifying people's lives, we believe that the simplification actually translates into something which is more productivity for all parties involved, whether it's a consumer, whether it's a small business or a large enterprise. The product is called Oystor. You can find it at oystor.com. Why Oystor? Because it is intended to safeguard very precious information belonging to everybody. So a little symbolism there. We were founded in 2010. We come from predominantly a large enterprise software and large enterprise hardware background. We've done various things in sales, marketing, and so on and so forth. So we've been in the technology space for more than 20 years. And over the last couple of months, we launched the first version of a consumer version. We were successful enough to get 3,000 users on board, and then we sort of backed off because now we want to enrich the application with more sort of professional and enterprise-related features so that we can take it even more deeper into the commercial world. We've been awarded a grant by IDA, which happened in the very first call, and I believe that was very, very instrumental in sort of getting us to where we are today. It helped us, obviously, from the standpoint of commercialization. Secondly, we were put in touch with who I believe is turning out to be a very critical business partner, which is Singtel Alatum, which is where our application is hosted. That's the second benefit. And the third most important thing is that we were able to sort of see firsthand how cloud is going to apply, not just for the end user, but even ourselves. I mean, it was a first-hand experience, and therefore we were able to sort of get launched pretty quickly. And then that led to, around the August timeframe when SITF awarded us with the most innovative cloud technology. So what is, to get a little bit more specific, I'll tell you in a very quick sort of nutshell. We want to be able to make sure that all your information is available anywhere, anytime. It's a pretty simplistic kind of statement, you can argue, but really if you think about it, it's fairly ambitious. Because, like I said, your information resides in multiple locations. It could be in your filing cabinet, it could be inside a bank, it could be inside an insurance company, it could be with the government. So there's one element of just making sure that you have organized all your information in one, and it's available to you. The second thing is, which is even more sort of important, is once you have this information, again, which is in various formats, it could be video, for instance, how do you put it to use? And putting it to use essentially means you've got to have the people that you transact with on this information to be sort of connected with you, not through email certainly, not through fax, not through courier, but it's a much more, the element of social business networking comes into play. The applications are tremendous. It can be in the area of customer acquisition for a large bank, for instance. It could be on customer support for any sort of entity that you're dealing with, because everywhere there is, different aspects of information that one has to make available. So really the mission is to build trusted online communities around critical information assets that enhance business and personal productivity. It's a little bit abstract, I know, but what I want to emphasize today is something that, information resides within enterprise, and a lot of enterprises have tried to solve the problem. and they've solved it within the four walls of the enterprise. They have not been able to extend it outside the enterprise very effectively, because the minute it goes out, they resort to old technologies like fax, courier, and that's hugely inefficient. Even for a simple example, when I wanted to get health insurance, I create a copy of my IC, the insurance agent comes over, they transcribe it on a piece of paper. So that whole process takes weeks, really, which is a huge efficiency problem. That really is the fundamental problem we're trying to solve, for which we require a fairly sophisticated framework that requires everything from digitization, okay, to a sophisticated storing and retrieval mechanism, the searchability. And this is searching not just on documents, but eventually it will be on different media such as video and audio as well. You take the example of, let's say, one's will, for instance. I think that's something which it could be a live will at some point. So you want to capture a video, you want to be able to store it. It becomes an official family quote-unquote document, but it's on video format. So that's the extent of thing we want to try to go solve. I put on only text search, but it's just a matter of time before we want to get into video search as well. And then there's a very crucial thing, which is search for contacts to network with. So like I talked about, enterprises solved it through Active Directory for within their four walls. You've got to have a security system that goes beyond that. You've got to have an authentication system that goes outside the four walls. So that what we call it's an authenticated workflow. So I am connecting with people in the cloud and conducting a transaction in the cloud, which is non-existent today. So that's what we're setting out to do. We've already done the first version of the workflow, which is not available to consumer, but it's available to people who are on the professional plan. So the workflow pieces will then start getting even more sophisticated, all this being carried out in the cloud. It gets even more computing intensive when you're dealing with even drawing. So we're getting a tremendous amount of questions from architect firms, engineering design firms saying, hey, can we start collaborating and sharing this with our customers in a secure, with rights management, all in the cloud. So it's getting to be very, very interesting. The level of interest is extremely high. Then we go into the synchronization aspect, which is critical, because again, not only is information residing in different places, it's consumed from different locations as well and created in different locations and devices. So to be able to synchronize intelligently becomes very, very important. So we go into that. And then finally, the sharing and the networking aspect that I talked about, to be able to conclude transactions becomes very important. So all this needs a high element of security. So, even yesterday I was talking to people with, again, an IDA subsidiary, which is Assurity. They've come up with one key for two-factor authentication, which is going to be a critical element that we've got to add on to this. Because remember, I talked about authenticated workflows. So for 5 people to collaborate through a network which is sitting inside the cloud, you need high levels of authentication of the person, as well as the information that they're sharing. So we're saying at least the person issue has to be solved first. So clearly it's exciting, challenging. You can argue it's ambitious, but we feel that we've made some pretty reasonable progress in the last 15 months. And judging by the response we're getting, especially from the commercial world, we're pretty charged up, as well as the investment community. So this is what it sort of looks like at a high level. So you've got data providers on the left-hand side, and it could be anything, as you say. Schools provide school leaving certificates and degree certificates. Insurance companies gives you policy premiums. So if you go to a hospital, for instance, you've got to make it available. Job applicants, patients, banking clients. So it's a mishmash of data providers being large enterprise, small business, as well as individuals who are now working with data requesters. That flips around, right? Hospital, banks, professional service providers, government, SMEs, everybody's. And so through the cloud, you've got to have on the left-hand side what we call as a platform service, right, around administration, rules, workflows, policies of governing this whole, how this thing is going to be orchestrated. And then you've got to have some basic functionality around storage, backing up, security, encryption, accessibility of this information through multiple devices. And we have an ecosystem of partners and which is where I'm very interested in talking to some of the technologies that I just heard about through I2R and other technologies that are perhaps being created under the umbrella of A-Star that could really enrich the capabilities of what we are going on to develop. Because I'd like people here to view us as eventually the last mile of getting your technology to the end user. Okay, so if people are looking for very applicable research product that needs to be commercialized and looking for somewhere where it can be applied, yeah, so we need stuff that is happening on the ID management, in security, in voice and pattern and video recognition, search, all of these things, I think, and it's not going to happen overnight. Clearly, there is going to be a roadmap, technical roadmap that we want to match with and license and so forth. But I think this is I believe, a great platform where we can figure out how to sort of make things work here. As I say, the service providers on scanning, verification, authentication, etc., is going to be very critical. So our journey has been, like I said, it's a 15-month journey. We were only incorporated in June. We received the IDA grant in October on the first cloud call for proposals. Then our first prototype was developed in February. We set up our first consumer launch in June, and we immediately signed up about 3,000 users, and feedback has been fairly positive and incredible. And in August, we got the Most Innovative Cloud Technology Award from SITF. So we've got a tremendous amount of things. We're now going into our second round of funding to take this to the next level. The interest from a commercial aspect has been in the areas of, like I said already, architects, engineering services firm. Our very first paid customer was an accountant. Essentially, the way they were looking at it was, I'm a small accounting firm. I'm able to offer banking kind of services to my clients. I can maintain their tax records, not on my hard disk, but on the cloud. It's shared. They can access it anywhere as long as I give them rights to share. And then they can then have further flexibility of being able to forward it or share it, again, with exclusive rights with people that they need to share it with. Now, imagine that whole ecosystem growing. So anytime you want to do a KYC, you've got all the information required, and then you authorize to share it with, a stockbroker or an insurance broker or whoever, or what have you. So that's really the application. We've married in, the core elements of document management, core elements of social business networking. You can actually discover people on Oystor. So you can go say, hey, who are students or who are teachers, anybody in Singapore. So you can actually find them and connect with them. And as long as you know them, we haven't yet built a recommendation engine, but now imagine this, physician, your GP could then recommend you to a surgeon, all in the cloud. And then you're then sharing your clinical reports, your prescriptions, and so on and so forth. So then this whole system becomes more cloud-based, etc. A lot of benefits. I think it cuts down on amount of physical paper being couriered back and forth, trips having to be made in order to retrieve documents, storage, physical storage, obviously gets cut down, office clutter goes down, and so forth. But if there's one thing I want to leave you with in terms of where we are taking this, it's what I call as an authenticated workflow, for which you need all these things. You need people who you're going to be transacting with who are not part of any one organization. It's a distributed environment. You need authentication of those people, and you've got to be able to conduct it, and it can only happen if you use appropriate cloud technologies. So that's where it's going. It has not been solved anywhere to my knowledge. It gets done bits and pieces with fax and emails and so on and so forth. But I don't think that that's going to be, I think this is where things are going to progress. So, having said all this and painting the rosy vision and the picture, let me give you a little bit about the experience that we had. Clearly, the onboarding process was very easy because of the fact that we didn't have to make a single really purchasing decision, right? We went up to a LATAM. We said, look, we want this amount of hardware. They said, fine. It was commissioned in 24 hours. Not a problem. I didn't have to worry about maintaining it. I didn't have to worry about figuring out where this is going to go sit. And by the way, I did the entire analysis of, should I buy my own hardware? Should I go buy managed rack space? Cloud was the most, for at least when you start up, you don't want even one full server. So it was, in terms of just onboarding, it was phenomenally quick. No upfront lump sum investment required. So managing cash flow became, I'm stating the obvious, but I do need to tell you that these are real benefits that we enjoyed during the thing. And scalable. I mean, if I want to add more memory or computing power, obviously it's one of the things that I would like to people who are making decisions on who their cloud service provider, support considerations should be primary in terms of the responsiveness, the SLAs and so forth. Make that a big consideration. Reliability of the infrastructure, very critical. Downtime is an absolute no-no. Remember now, the end customer who we are going to go pitch to are still, even though I tell them, hey, and by the way, Singtel enjoys a phenomenal brand awareness anywhere. So the minute I tell them, our application runs on Singtel, a lot of the objections go away. But still, there is this question of, hey, what if my internet service provider goes down? So there is still that reservation in people's mind about moving to the cloud yet. There is still a request of saying, hey, what if I want to bring this down and work on my desktop? So it's an adoption issue. You're always going to have the early adopters who, can see where this is going and they want to really be at the forefront. And then you've got the laggards. And it's the typical Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm paradigm that we are at. But I'm sure we'll tip the point pretty quickly. Security. Obviously, because this is not a Facebook kind of, even Facebook people are worried about their own privacy, but this is very, very secure transactions that we're talking about. So it has to be, number one. So, we've got to be careful about that. So again, security-related applications that anybody of you have to offer, if A-Star is researching and producing, I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys. So, future consideration, number one for me, as well as everybody that we talk to from an end customer perspective, is security. It cannot be compromised under any circumstance. Number two, for us, certainly is support. I've said this before, and I'm putting cost third, right? Because I think clearly for the security and for the convenience that we offer, we believe that we can charge a premium. And therefore, cost is a critical, storage cost, etc. is coming down, but I'm putting it third on the list of considerations. Brand, obviously, people will obviously feel more comfortable if it is hosted and run by sort of an endorsed brand. So to that extent, my request is agencies, whether it is government agencies or even large cloud service providers, should be more aggressive in positioning it, because for our apps to succeed, the service provider has to take the lead in messaging it to the public. So a Tatacom or a Chunghwa or a Singtel or an Alatum or an Amazon, whoever it is, should be, I think, more vocal in presenting the application infrastructure that they are taking to market rather than promoting their own brand. Because that's another trend we are noticing, that telcos obviously are now becoming a critical channel to reach the end customer. And it's no different than a cable provider saying, look, I've got HBO, ESPN and all the other media content. It's the same thing on the applications. And they've got to really, really take it to market loudly. That's my sort of pitch to the telco service providers. But it's becoming a very critical distribution medium, no question about it. I actually see some of the hardware and PC guys maybe taking a little bit of a backseat, and these guys coming to the forefront, the telco guys, British Telecom, StarHub, and so forth. Convenience and flexibility. I think the billing process, and this is critical, and it's probably a little subtle and a bit of a nuance that I want to point out. Micro billing, where I might be, and I think to some extent it was raised by, I forget who it was. I think it was on demand, right? So if I use computing power for half an hour, let's bill it for just that half an hour. So that level of micro billing capability will be a huge benefit in terms of adoption, as well as in terms of making sure that this thing is far-reaching. And the other thing is availability of other cloud apps. I think the more apps you serve, the more complete it is. So to the extent that we are talking to some of the telco providers anyway, but I think as a business user or as an end user, they are always looking to see, okay, I can't just go in and buy one application. So they want to fill out the footprint. So I would suggest that, telcos, much like they've approached the media side of the house, which is you've got the sports, you've got the language, you've got the movie sort of set of offering. You've got to have a cloud portfolio cloud app portfolio that makes a lot of sense to the end customer. So those are my sort of key considerations. View us as a platform which enables, like I said, the authenticated workflows, but it has all the fundamental sort of elements of scanning, storing, sharing, searching, synchronizing in a secure network. And but we embed technologies that will go facilitate and make this whole workflow happen. It's going to be a long journey. I hope I have a much more interesting story to tell you next year this time, hopefully. But the one thing which I feel pretty excited about is I know this thing is not out there. Whether it's us or whether it's somebody else who's going to go make it happen, I feel excited that we're doing this out of Singapore, and we're probably at the forefront as much as anybody else anywhere else in the world. So I feel happy and blessed and fortunate to be in Singapore, and thank IDA for the first sort of shot in the arm by giving us the grant. So thank you very much for your time, and all the best to everybody here who's trying to make this happen.